All right, we might as well go ahead and get started. I think I can speed up a little bit so you'll have time to grab some coffee before the next session. Hopefully I don't put you to sleep that you need the coffee. Today we're going to be talking about marketing and advocacy as far as your arts education program goes. And basically I have a lot of examples to show you that I've basically stolen from a bunch of different places. And hopefully then you're going to be able to steal them and use them in your programs as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but first of all, who in the world am I, okay? So let me kind of give you my background and how I come to this idea of talking about marketing a music education program. So my background many, many moons ago is that I worked at CNN, okay? Behind this window is actually the White House. So my office faced the White House. You may not recognize the woman on the left. That's Elaine Quijano. She works at CBS News right now. She actually anchored last year's vice presidential debate. So I can say that I knew her when, and she can also say I knew Mark when. So I worked at CNN in Washington because I had this love of politics, and my degree is actually in communication. But all during the time that I was working and doing that, I was also very involved in music education because I was a product of music education and I loved it, so I kind of helped out with the high school band. I actually worked with the high school band in Pittsburgh for 13 years, Baldwin High School. This is us performing in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So I kind of teetered these two worlds. I wasn't a music education major, but I had this love of music education, of course, and then this love of policy and journalism and communications. So from there, it's not worth going to the whole story. I actually ended up working at Progressive Music. And what Progressive Music is, we are a retailer of music products in Western Pennsylvania. So we service school music programs. And I argue, and these guys here can attest, that part of what our job description should be is actually psychiatrists for music teachers. And I say that as a joke, but it's actually pretty true because the music teachers and arts teachers don't necessarily have time to go to the faculty room for lunch. And even when they do, the math teacher doesn't understand what's happening in their classroom. So we have representatives who visit schools on a regular basis, and they hear what's happening in other schools, they hear what's happening across the state, across the nation, and they're then able to share out some of that information to teachers and then hear what the tales of woe are that are happening in a particular school. So I began that work where I do a lot of our marketing and our financial stuff. But from there, I kind of then combined all these worlds that I'm in, and I get to visit a couple buildings every year, several times. One of them is this building, the Capitol in Washington, D.C., where I've done a lot of advocacy work with NAFME, the National Association for Music Education, and NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants. Here's a group of folks from Pennsylvania in the music industry meeting with Senator Toomey. And then I also spend a good bit of time in this building right down the street, the Capitol here in Harrisburg. And I do a lot of that work with PMEA, the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association. Here's a picture of us there a couple years ago. But what I try to do as much as possible is I go out and I talk about why music and the arts are a good thing. And so here we are, we're talking at a concert, presenting an award. We have worked, I'll tell you about this specific event a little bit later. But we did a live town hall from a local school district. When I say live, it was actually video broadcast across the country. It's still archived on YouTube. Meeting with Secretary Rivera. Abby was there with us from PMEA. The Pennsylvania Department of Education Secretary. And then this was actually last year talking with future music educators, high school students who want to go into music education. Okay, so I also do this work, as I said, with groups like NAM, Support Music. If you've never been to supportmusic.com, I suggest you go look at it, even if you're not a music teacher. There's a bunch of free resources on there that you can download and steal and use for your program. It's there for you to use. The Music Education Policy Roundtable, we do a lot of federal policy type work, PMEA, of course. I'm chair of the Advocacy Council there. And then this group, the Pennsylvania Arts Education Network. So that's kind of a little bit of background on me and who I am. So before we kind of go into this marketing thing, I just want to kind of get your sense on what is advocacy? What do you think advocacy is? Give me a definition of advocacy. One word definition, long definition. What do you think advocating is? Collaboration. Promotion. Marketing. All good definitions.
Speaking for others.
Perfect definition. When I first started working in this, I always kind of thought advocacy was you go to a senator's office and you pound your fist on the table and say, this is what we need to have. And I came to the realization that's not necessarily the case. And one of the things that I get to do every year is I go up to Slippery Rock University and I talk to college students about a lot of things about the music industry, about advocating. And the professor up there told me that she defines advocacy as telling the good news. And that has actually helped reframe how I think of advocacy. Because advocacy, yes, it's important sometimes to go in and pound your fist to the senator. But it's about telling the good news of what you're doing in your program, not only to the senator, but to your school board, to your administrators, to parents, to other students, to so many people. So that kind of reframed my thinking, and also kind of is the impetus for this idea of a presentation like this when we say that advocacy is marketing, okay? I want to try to demystify this idea because I know a lot of people are very worried, concerned, scared when they hear advocacy and think, well, you know, we just heard this presentation about ESSA, and I can't go in and advocate for something like that because I haven't read the law, I don't know all about that. Okay. Number one, you don't need to be intimidated by that because there are people out there who know about that and can help you. But number two, part of advocating for your program and really the arts in general is just marketing what your program is and telling the good news of your program. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So couple things to remember as you think about everything that you're doing. Kids are so much busier than they ever were before. There are a million after-school activities. There are more sports than ever. So kids are pulled in so many different directions. How do you get them excited to participate in your program? Engage them in conversation. You know, what do they do? Make them love the arts. Make it fun. And then think about what inspired you to love the arts. These are just kind of some overarching things to think about, okay? So, let's talk about some different audiences. First audience is to teachers and administrators, okay? So you're in an arts classroom and you need to advocate what you're doing to other teachers for a lot of reasons. So it's always important to just publicize what you're doing in your classroom. And again, I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of this in a little bit. It's also important to include this message of the arts being important on their own. We need to create well-rounded citizens, and that's what you're doing in the classroom every day. That's one of the major outcomes of education in general, is to create well-rounded citizens. Well, you're doing your part in that by helping them appreciate culture. What are the academic benefits of music education or arts education? So for many years, there were all these studies out that say, well, you know, if you participate in a music class or you participate in an arts class, then the SAT scores are going to go up. That's great and that's important, but I think it's also important for us to remember the previous point, that arts are important on their own. However, I make both of these points for a reason, because you need to know your audience. Because if your audience is someone who is worried about what are the academic benefits of these certain subject areas in my school district, then you can say, yes, and the arts help here. Let's not forget that it's important for well-rounded citizens, but let's not forget that it helps with so many of these other academic benefits. Telling the stories of student success. You all have stories of student success. And again, I'm going to show you examples of that later. And this last point's really important. Even in the face of adversity in your school and anything that's happening in your class, it's important to stay relentlessly positive. And I probably should have put quotes around relentlessly positive, because about 6 or 7 years ago, I'm on the supportmusic.com steering committee. And we were having a conference call kind of talking about our goals. And this is well before ESSA was reauthorized, and we were kind of brainstorming of what do we do? You know, programs are being cut and there's a lack of student opportunities. What do we do? One guy on the phone said those two words: it's important to stay relentlessly positive. And that's kind of become our mantra for all these years of remembering that anything that we do, we have to stay positive in all of our messaging. Talk about another group that you need to market to: parents. It is so important to communicate. It's so important to talk about not only what the schedules are, if you need your students to be there for some event, but it's important to communicate about what's happening in your classroom. Nowadays, the technology is so easy. You can send an email home, a newsletter, either print it out or mail it to all the parents. I know so many schools have these software programs, Power School. We were talking about Charms this morning. Different programs that you can send out an email to all the parents in your class. And even if it's a short email at the end of the week to say, here's what we did this week. Here's what's happening in the arts classroom. Here are the good things that are happening. I think that's a huge benefit as an advocacy point, because now they know what's happening in the schools, and they can say, wow, we really do have this really great arts program, and my kids get to be involved in it. And especially if it's an elementary level, sending that stuff home is great. And then you can say, and here's some of the things we know that are happening at the middle school or the high school, because now you've implanted that in the parent's mind. And the parent can say, oh, wow, I really want you to stay involved in this, and now they're nudging the kid as well as you are nudging the kid. Always important to just throw in some of those facts about arts education. I mean, they're out there, they're easy to find. But throwing that into an email, maybe one at the end of the email, it's a great thing to do. And always invite parents to participate in your events. If you're doing something like you have a student art show, find a way for parents to be involved. That is so important to do so that they feel now invested in your program, but they're there experiencing the arts with their kids. So just marketing the programs to anyone and everyone who will listen, okay? And this is like basic stuff, but I think it's really important to throw this stuff out there. It's just things to think about, because again, I know that as a teacher, you're bogged down in so many different things during a day, you might not even think about, oh, I should do this. But use a school bulletin board to show off what's happening in your arts or music program. School newspapers, okay? School newspapers, that's a great opportunity to engage a student writer who wants to be involved in their program and say, here, come here, let's talk about this that's happening in our music class. We started to play the recorder. What does that mean? Okay, so have a student interview the teacher and then interview some students talking about learning to play the recorder in third grade music class. Okay, that goes home to parents, and parents see that. Anything that you can do that talks about what your program is doing can only serve to help you. School and district newsletters. I know that it's become so competitive for public school districts now with the rise of charter schools. So there are even school districts that buy advertising space on television. But they have beefed up what they do as far as their newsletters go that get sent home to parents. So here's a great opportunity for you to say, raise your hand and say, I will help you provide content. And the school district that I worked in, when they revamped this newsletter and they were sending it, I think once a quarter, I immediately started providing them content and said, you know, even if it's a small blurb about what was happening in our music program. Eventually it got to the point where it was like a 20-page newsletter where they gave us 2 pages and said, here, do whatever you want to talk about the music program. So we were including things from K to 12, and believe me, because I was the one doing it, it wasn't always easy to go to these teachers and say, I need something. Give me some pictures, feed me some information. Again, you're busy. But this was a huge advocacy tool point for us, okay? Because we were putting out what's going on in the program. We were directing people to our website for more information. We were using lots and lots of pictures so people could see, wow, they really do have a vibrant music program in that district. So talk to those people in your district about that. PTA announcements, obviously at the elementary level. There's PTA newsletters and things that go out. Get yourself heard in those things. Again, this direct communication that I talked about before about sending the emails home. Concert programs are a great way to include information about your program. So talk about upcoming events, okay, for the whole year. Say you're the middle school music program. Include things about the elementary music program. Include things about the high school music program. Let's say that you know that the high school is having an arts showcase. Include that in the music program. It's important for us to remember that we're all in this together. So the music people should help the visual arts people, and the visual arts people should help the music people. And then I'll actually show you some specific ways to do that later. Use school announcements. So many schools now have a television station within their school. So they do these morning announcements on video. So again, I'll show you an example of something that I did in our school that we included on the morning announcements. But what can you do to supply them content? This is essentially the next version of a school newspaper, okay? They're looking for video, they're looking for pictures to use. Go to them and supply that, or say, hey, we'd like one of your reporters to come and feature what we're doing in our classroom or in our after-school activity. Again, none of this costs money, okay? None of this costs money, it's just a little bit of time. Always important to enlist the help of other teachers and other departments within your school. So, you know, I'll use the band example, and I'm sorry, I'm a marching band guy, so I use the band example a lot, but I'm sure as a visual arts person, you can think of ways that this works with you too. So we would seek out teachers who maybe were involved in the marching band, okay? And now that's a new cheerleader for us. If we show them that we're willing to include them somehow in our program, that's a big help when we're recruiting students or talking about the things that are happening in our program. So we would find other teachers who are involved in other ways. Enlisting the help of other departments, okay? So let's say that you're the band program and you want to create a logo for your band. Go to the visual arts people and say, you know, can you help us create a logo? Or our marching band show theme this year is, I don't know, superheroes. Can you help us design a logo? And then now that becomes a project for those visual arts students. Those visual arts students now feel they have a connection to another organization in the school. So how do you work together with other departments? Huge is, as I said, almost every district has a PR department now. How do you enlist the help of them? Again, they're looking for content too. They are majorly looking for content. So go to them and say, here's the stuff we're doing, and we want you to help promote this. What can we do to help you do your job, and can you help us by promoting these events? So I'm going to show you some specific examples that I've collected. So I collect weird stuff, so I collect all these examples of how to market your arts education program. So again, a lot of this stuff is banned, okay? And the reason that is because the marching band people have figured out how to do this. They figured out how to market their programs. Now, you can easily take a lot of this stuff and make it work for your classes too, if you're visual art, if you're theater, if you're dance. The principles are the same, but I apologize because a lot of this is marching band related. Again, because they've figured it out. So Broken Arrow, Oklahoma is probably one of the best high school bands in the country. So I've stolen tons of stuff from them because not only is the band amazing, but the way they're marketing their program is amazing. So this is something that just gets hung up in the school. This is a flyer. Now, anyone can make a flyer, right, and say we're having color guard auditions on this date, come to the band room. So they're jazzing it up, right? And they're showing an actual student performing in it. How cool is that, okay? How cool is showing something like that? Because this could be you. This could be what you're doing, okay? Again, this is the flyer for their drum major auditions. So they're saying this could be you. This could be you up there doing these things. Showing some things that your program does in all of your marketing communications. Pictures are so important. We all have a phone in our pocket that has a camera, okay? Take pictures of what you're doing in your classroom, and then you can use it in things like this. Even if it's, you're adding a new section of a visual arts class next year. You're adding a new ceramics class, okay? Show pictures of what your students have done, and when you're trying to get people to sign up for it, or if you have an after-school club, show pictures of what the results are and of students participating. That's how you're going to get people involved. This is one of the coolest things I have ever seen, okay? So, Carmel High School in Indiana, again, a great band. All right, so this is a trifold, okay? You get a trifold of information. This is the trifold that they put out for recruiting, all right? So, all right, again, pictures. It's great. So they have some of the accomplishments on the back. That's what's in the middle, and then here's where you can come and learn more. All right, pretty standard boilerplate stuff you would put on something like this. But here's the inside, okay? A lot of words, but the words are important. So, this article over here on this side is all about from a student's perspective. This is a student telling her story of why she's in the band. This is about her family, which is the band. It's personalizing it. It's one student's story, but it's written so well that she talks about what it's like from, the beginning of rehearsals in the summer all the way to the end at their championship performance. Okay, you're personalizing it. You're using student stories. Another version of that is, because again, we have to get the parents involved, is the Dear Mom and Dad letter. Okay, so this is in this recruiting packet that goes out, just this trifold. And it's a student telling a story of, thank you for what you've done, and here's what I've done as a student. Okay, so this is a great little PR tool. And again, you can make this work for visual arts. But they've then taken it one step further. And so I hope you can hear this. This is a video of that Dear Mom and Dad letter. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about video after this, but I want you to just to take a look at this video, and you can see how they then took Dear Mom and Dad to a different level.
Dear Mom and Dad, I've got a lot on my mind these days. The teenage years always came with their own kind of pressure, but these days, technology makes information so much more available, and connections to my friends so much more possible. But it also puts more pressure on me to know more, to accomplish more, to become more, all in a world that has become more competitive than ever. You've chosen a great school for me. You've accepted my friends and supported my dreams. And when I've wanted to give up on myself too quickly, you've been there with an encouraging word, a gentle nudge or advice to never quit. When the rehearsals are long, the demands are unrelenting, and I just can't seem to get everything right, you still believe in me and in what we and this band are trying to accomplish. You remember what I sometimes forget. Someday, what I am learning here this day and every day will make me better and stronger and more ready for the future. Although I don't often acknowledge it, I know that you are doing a juggling act also, balancing work and home life with helping out in a zillion ways. Who would drive to more than 50 rehearsals and 8 or 10 competitions? Who would make sure we get to school before the sun rises and get home after it has set? Who would help organize community night, car raffles, and mattress sales, and chaperone trips near and far? Who would remember my water, sunscreen, and the Gatorade, and constantly remind me about my blacks and shoes? Who would design, build, and assemble the props? Who would cook food to feed a dozen hungry kids so that football pitch-ins would be a success, and pack and unpack and repack instruments and uniforms from trucks endless times? And who would prepare spirit bags with sweet treats for bus rides? Who would practice all year and can send us off with joyous sounds? Who would put this much time, this much effort, this much personal sweat and selfless dedication into their lives of their children and their closest friends? Who else but you, Mom and Dad? And so, when you see me in my uniform all dressed up and serious, and I see you somewhere out there cheering me on, know this. In my heart, I know the sacrifices you are making so I can make memories that will last forever. I don't often say it, but I always know it. You are making an extraordinary difference in my life. I could never, ever do this on my own. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I love you.
So that's the actual letter from the trifle, okay? But obviously it's so much more powerful there in a video. So a couple points about that. So first of all, what a cool recruiting tool for students, because just by a student watching that, they kind of get a sense of what it's like to be in this program. It's also a recruiting tool and probably just an informative piece for parents. So they see, okay, here's what we do in this group, and here's a lot of ways I can be involved as a parent. And there's all these other parents that already do it. And by the way, you saw a bunch of adults playing there. That's just one of these cool things that they do at Carmel. They have an adult band that when the band leaves to go to a show and are getting ready and boarding the buses, this band is playing for them. So they're playing for their kids. It's just a totally cool thing that they do there. So you might be looking at that and say, whoa, that's intimidating, okay? Well, I get it. That is kind of intimidating to do something that big and that produced, but that doesn't mean you can't do something like that. You know, does your school have a video production class? Do you find a way to have one of those students come in and take video throughout the year and put together maybe one video a year that you're recruiting video? Do you have a parent who's like really jazzed about their new video camera? Maybe that's the person who does something like this. It's finding the people to do that, okay? But even beyond that, again, we all have a phone in our pocket that has a camera and a video recorder. So is it just always being ready to take some of those quick video clips and then using some video software that's out there and putting something together? Again, doesn't have to be that produced, but something that's a recruiting video, all right? And I'm gonna show you a couple other examples. But I just thought that one was just really poignant, especially since it took what was in that brochure and took it up to the next level. So this is another video that was used, I won't show you the whole thing, but this is used actually as the recruiting video for this high school band. So they'll go to their middle school and they'll show this video. So I just love that it shows what the band is out doing, when they'll be performing, so these students have a sense of what they're getting themselves involved with. You know, and so for a teacher to be able to go in and say, here's what you can be doing. Here's what you can be doing next year, and you can be a part of all of this amazing stuff that we get to go and do. That is totally cool, I think, to a middle schooler especially. This is actually, oops, let me go back. This one is an actual recruiting video that was done by Norwin High School in Pittsburgh. This is actually what they show at their middle school. And I love this one because it shows from the beginning these early rehearsals, football games. Okay, so it's showing what the kid's going to be doing. I also love the GoPro camera that they use. I just think that's so cool. So, under a minute, okay? And again, this is totally adaptable to a theater program, to a dance program, to a visual arts program. Totally adaptable, okay? You know, in a visual arts program, is it showing the progress of you're working on a project throughout a semester? Is it showing those video clips? It's totally adaptable to do something like this. Okay, so this next one this is a little bit dated, but this was the school district I worked at. And so what we did was, I mentioned we were in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and that idea kind of sparked something in us, and the community wanted to find a way to be involved in what we were doing, but obviously we couldn't take all of them with us to New York City. So it sparked this idea of creating these little video stories, and this is something that went on for probably 7 or 8 years after that, and we would produce these video stories probably once every 2 weeks during the marching band season. And it became this really cool thing because we interviewed kids. And we essentially limited it to seniors because there's only so much time we could do it. And the seniors were excited to be like, when do I get to be interviewed? Because we only do 2 or 3 a week, and we make sure we got to every senior. But this became a huge marketing tool for our program to show what our program was doing. Like when we'd take a band trip, okay? So we took the band to the Bahamas once, okay? And when we were there, the stories that we told were not like, okay, well, the band's performing in the Bahamas, okay, because we get that. The cool story was the kids who have never been on an airplane, and their first trip is on an airplane to go to Florida to get on a cruise ship. So students who probably never would have gotten out of our community now are out participating in something like this. So we found a way to tell stories. The one I'm going to show you is just kind of a generic one that we did of a festival that we went to. And a couple things that I'll point out. So we always talk to students, okay? We want their perspective. We talk about not only the performance that we do, I always show a bit of the performance, but we also talk about the other fun stuff that we get to do, because that's education too. Going and participating in different things is education. So this is a whole bunch of different ways that we showed, here's what our program does and here's why it's successful.
And awesome is a perfect word to describe the Highlander Band's performances at the Autumn Glory Festival. It was a beautiful fall day for a drive to Oakland, Maryland, and a great opportunity for the band to perform off the field in the afternoon parade.
I thought the parade went really well. Even though it was a little warm, it went really good. Really good marching, and I believe the people really liked us. And I'm amazed that they never heard of us, but they really liked us.
I thought the parade was really awesome, actually. The houses were beautiful and everybody was really nice. They were cheering and clapping and they were saying go Pittsburgh and go Steelers, and it was really cool.
So earlier today, the street behind me was filled with thousands of people here to watch the Autumn Glory Festival parade. So after the band performed in the parade, of course, what do? Well, you come to eat, and that's what they're doing right now. As you see behind me, lots of food vendors, lots of good food. Talk about the food here, coming here and eating.
It was very good. There was a wide variety of choices. I had Italian sausage and Italian ice, so we went Italian today.
So after the dinner stop in town, it was off to Southern Garrett High School for the field show competition. The evening field show performance was equally impressive as the parade performance earlier in the day, and those two performances earned the band top honors, receiving the Festival Champion Award. The end of the Autumn Glory Festival means there's only 2 more weeks left in the season, And the biggest event is the Home USSBA show on October 25th. Of course, check back here for a new Notes from the Field with all the highlights of the home show. We'll see you next time.
So always, telling the story, telling what's coming up, student interviews. I was very lucky that I had a band parent who helped me with this, and she did all the video and took care of all that. And then again, this is like 10 years ago, so I had the video editing software to do it. Now, this would be so much easier to do than kind of the big production that we had to do with the cameras and putting it on my computer because of the advent of the iPhone and what we can do with it. So I encourage you to find ways to tell some stories. Do you find a parent that can help you do that? Again, as I mentioned earlier. And I just found this video, and I just had to show you a quick clip of it. I mentioned before the GoPro. There are so many ways you can use a GoPro camera. This band attaches it to the end of the flute. Like I've seen it attached to a color guard member, like just, they'll have it here and so you see the flag spinning. You put it on a snare drum or something. There's so many ways to do stuff like that and then you edit it together. Okay, so all right, I've been talking tons about marching band and band stuff, so here's some visual art stuff. It's always important to go out and try to find connections with the local media, and so especially television, because that's basically how most of us get our news, television or the internet. It's not newspapers anymore. Those are both very visual mediums, so you need to find a way to tell your story in pictures. So here's a story that ran on a local news station, and I'm sure part of the pitch was, well, you can send a camera down to take pictures of this.
Today marks the beginning of Youth Art Month and the opening of a special exhibit in Lansing. The display at the Arts Council office on Turner Street is showcasing artwork from local grade schoolers. It's free and open to the public. Organizers say they're hoping to show the value of arts education.
To have artwork on exhibit in a space outside of the Lansing School District, we hope helps raise awareness of the importance of arts education, but then also it's a really exciting thing for the youth to come in and see their work in a professional setting.
The exhibit runs through the end of the month.
It's writing a press release and sending it out, and maybe you'll get some coverage like that. I mean, that's huge. And even in some local markets, some television stations actually still have feature reporters who might be willing to come and do a longer story like that. That's sometimes tough to do, but it's about being persistent. And again, back to the original point, it's a form of advocacy and advocating for your program. So, if you're a visual art class, so you've come up with all this great student artwork, and maybe it hangs in the halls of your school, but not everybody gets to see it. So what about this idea of taking those pictures and putting them on a video loop, okay? And then putting the student's name on it. And then you put it on a DVD and you give it to local businesses and say, here's something for you to play on the TV in your waiting room. And even, so if I were doing this, I would go a step further. I love that they put the student's name on here. But I would put, you saw in some of those other videos, there was a little logo down here. In television land, that's called a bug, because it looks like there's a bug on the screen, but it's that constant logo. So you have your school's logo and maybe the web address for your school district or for the specific page that your arts program is in your school district. And then a local business should eat this up, because now all the parents and grandparents are going to want to come and see Maria's artwork in their waiting room. If you tell your students, hey, these businesses are playing this, and change this out a couple times a year. This is really simple to do and doesn't take a long time to create. So social media is huge, okay? We all live on social media. So it's important to find ways to use this to communicate what you're doing. Today in our class, we did this, and you have a picture of students working. We're having this event coming up at this time. Post that. You can share a variety of media. If you're a music program, put a clip of a 10-second audio clip of the students playing their recorders. 10 seconds, because that might be all you can take when you're elementary recorders. Obviously, with visual arts, there's so many things you can post there. What's the engaging content? Don't put a 5-minute video up, okay? But put a couple quick short clips like that flute video with the GoPro. Put up a 30-second clip of that. on your page. That's a cool thing. You can do that in elementary school. Put it on the elementary school student, a GoPro, while you're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. I mean, that's just a cool thing that it's going to be shared and it's going to raise awareness of your program. And I guarantee if your district has a PR person or department, they're going to love that because now that's something they can share too. Including links to your social media on everything you put out. You know, so you have a letterhead maybe for your department, your class. Put your social media links on there as well, and if you have a website. And I always make this point too, make sure you're checking with your district for clearances to use photos and videos. That's pretty standard now in districts that they are either collecting information to say that it's okay for the student to be on a video or their picture taken, or they're doing the reverse, taking a picture saying you can't do that. But your district should have a policy on that and would be able to tell you what that information is. Okay, so I talked a little about logos and the idea of a bug. Okay, so logos are your branding. I mean, this like a multi-billion-dollar industry probably coming up with logos, these PR firms. It's so important. So you should have them for your program. Again, I have some marching band ones here. So obviously the Carmel School District has their own logo, but the band has their own specific logo and it's on everything that they do. This is William Mason bands in Ohio. So if you're the marching band, go to the visual arts people and say, help us come up with a logo. If you're the visual arts folks, come up with a logo for your arts department. That can be a project, you know, maybe every year your logo changes or you have a middle school logo or an elementary school logo. Just kind of think outside the box on that. So when I was teaching in the Baldwin-Whitehall School District, on the left, that was the school district logo. They've since changed it, but that was the school district logo. We took a little bit of an offspring of that and said, well, we're going to make it musical. So we're going to change the B to an eighth note. And so that became the logo for the K-12 music department. And if you remember from that video that I showed you, it's the video's bugged, that logo's there. And we used that in everything we did. And we even went to the point, I don't know if you saw the microphone that I was using. So it had the Notes from the Field was the name of our show. And then we had that BW logo on there. So we're always branding ourselves. Pittsburgh Public Schools. Has this great logo, very colorful for just the arts education department. And it is on everything that goes out of the department. And that's fantastic. That's really important. So back to Broken Arrow I was talking about. So what they've done is they've said, well, let's kind of come up with a branding for all of the things in our department. So they have specific logos for the choir. This is the marching band logo. Then this is kind of the overarching for all the bands and the jazz band. And I was even told that this one is so popular, they had t-shirts made with this, and there were kids who weren't in the jazz band who just wanted to buy it because it was just like this cool thing in the school to be involved in. So that's a cool way to promote your program. All right, so your website. If you don't have one, you should find a way to have one. Either it's your district giving you some space on their server, or is it going out and creating your own site? And again, if you go out and create your own site, it's important to confirm that that's okay with your district. It's only as good as the amount of updates that are on there. So continuing to update calendars and things like that are important. Feature stories. So so much of what I've talked about is telling the story. So in our class this semester, we are working on this project and tell the story of that project all the way through. It doesn't have to be a doctoral dissertation on it, but it's showing what you're doing. It's keeping it current. And contact information for you as well as your whole department. So a couple examples of websites. So here's a Pennsylvania one that I thought was really cool, Williamsport. So see, Williamsport has a logo for their visual arts department, which I think is totally cool. That's a great logo. Because it shows what they do. So they've taken some information, and if you look on the left side, it's kind of hard to see, but they have it broken down by every grade. So you can click on each grade level and you can read the curriculum. So a parent can read, here's what's going to be happening. But then, I love this, they put actual student work on there. All right, and this can be expanded even further, okay? This idea of galleries, okay? Taking pictures of what your students are doing and posting it on there. All right, using that website is really important. And then, again, like I said, put those social media links on everything, put your website link on everything that you send out too, in your email signature, and any printed information that you put out. So a couple other, you're gonna think I'm obsessed with Broken Arrow probably, but they just do this stuff really well. Just a little bit of their website. So lots of pictures. They have their Twitter page on here, and then links to obviously other things there at the bottom, and they keep the page current. William Mason from Ohio, again, pictures and links to their social media, and here's what we do, and you can see up at the top, courses and programs, a page for the band boosters so parents are involved and also see what's going on with the boosters. A bit about all of your courses. So the first one here, high school wind ensemble, there's the syllabus, reference recordings, rehearsal schedule. So it's useful. Okay, not only is it just a little bit to tell you about the program, this now becomes useful for the student with reference recordings. It becomes useful for the student and the parent just by posting a PDF of the rehearsal schedule. Again, this is music that they're playing, so here's some that you can download, and these are reference recordings. Okay, calendar. So Google makes this so easy for you with Google Calendar that you just keep it all on one page and it'll automatically populate this on your site if you just put in the calendar. And what's great with Google is different colors are different things. So I can just tell purple's percussion, blue is color guard, green is jazz band. So anybody can go on here and see when they're supposed to be where at what time. Easy stuff, but really important. Okay. Does anybody have any idea what that is on that? No? That's what I thought at first too. So what this is the replica of their marching band t-shirt, okay? So this is actually McKeesport High School Band, which is the high school that's where our offices are located. So I go into the band director's office and I see these t-shirts. I'm like, what is this? And he said, well, what we've done is they do an alumni night and they do an 8th grade band recruiting night. So they said, we're gonna create these t-shirts, and there's like this illusion of mystery to it, right? But if you're in the know, you know it's the high school marching band uniform. So what they did on the back of those for the middle schoolers, it says Founders Hall Middle School Band Night or something like that. So it's like the in thing, like I was telling about the Broken Arrow Jazz Band, it's kind of like the in thing. And here's some of the alumni there wearing the t-shirts. So it's become kind of this in club at the school because only you kind of know what it is. It's a school spirit thing. And now those middle schoolers feel that they're already a part of this program. And it's great recruiting then obviously for the teachers because they want these kids to be in the program next year. I just think that's the coolest thing, and I bought a shirt because I just thought it was just so cool. All right, so how about a Student of the Month program? This is actually something we used to do in our business. We would go to teachers and say, pick your Student of the Month, we'll give them a $10 gift certificate to come to our store and buy whatever. You can do it that way, you don't have to do it that way, whatever works for you, but create some type of a certificate as an award. You come up with whatever the rubric is to give out this award. Create a certificate. They're the Student of the Month. Now that's publicity. That's content for social media. That's content for your website. That's content for your district PR people once a month. Can you partner with a local business to provide the award like I said that we did, and then they can provide some type of thing to give to the student? Okay, even if it's a local pizza shop and the pizza shop gives them a gift certificate, what middle school kid is not going to love, a free large pizza? Yeah, so I said the donated stuff. Okay, so visual arts in your school, all right? Of course you want to display what your kids are doing around your school. Find ways to display that. And I was just thinking Pittsburgh Public Schools, you guys put together this great book about this 100 years of artwork that they have in the school. And I was flipping through it last week and I think this is like... It is and seriously, send her an email to get this book because it's very cool to see what they own. But to know that there's all this artwork in the schools is really cool. And that helps create a buzz about your program and what's going on in your classrooms and just about art in general. So do you have exhibitions? I mean, if you're a visual arts, I would imagine there's some type of student exhibition at some point. How about a preview or pre-performance around those exhibitions that kind of show what's happening to get to this outcome? So if it's a pottery thing, where did we start and how did we get here? That's important for people who are coming to your event to see that. So collaboration with those in your department, your other arts colleagues, creating some type of quarterly newsletter. Again, if your district has something, perfect, use that. If they don't, come up with your own type of quarterly newsletter of everything that's happening in the arts department. And when I say the arts department, I mean, that could be the visual arts people and the music people all come together and create this. And then it goes out to all of those students. And here's what's happening in all of the programs. And again, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can include feature articles. Feature one discipline per issue. Include articles that's already in other school newspapers, school parent newsletters, you know. Write about alumni who've gone through the program. And even if they're not performing at Carnegie Hall, they're just out successful in the world. They were part of your music program. Those are things to include. How about touring exhibitions and performances? So again, for band, that's huge. Like, that's our recruiting life, okay? We take the high school band to the middle school because we want those middle schoolers in the band. Okay, so how do you do that at the elementary level? So prepare an exhibition that goes down to the elementary level and says, you know, here's what you can be doing, and then maybe prepare a lesson that works with what the standards that they're teaching at that level. Has anyone heard of the John Lennon bus? Okay, totally awesome thing. I mentioned that earlier, that town hall that I showed you a picture of. So the Lennon bus, in conjunction with NAM and a bunch of other sponsors, can come to your town, all right, and they will work with your students. And one of the programs they do is they'll take 6 or 7 students on the bus, they'll work together to write a song and produce a music video for the song. But one of the cool things that they do is when they come, they say, do you guys have a photography class here? Because we need a student photographer for the day. So everyone works with the top of the line equipment for the day and does this, writes a music video and records it. And then in days when they work with NAM a few times a year, they do this big produced town hall and talk about music education on the second day. The Lennon bus is difficult to get, but it's worth looking into. If you go to their website, lennonbus.org, you can put in a request to get the bus. Everybody wants the bus, but put your name in for it. It is an awesome experience. We've had it in Pennsylvania quite a few times over the last few years. How do you find ways to get recognition? One of them for visual arts is the Reflections program. I put the link on the handout for you. Something that you really, you can look into. That's a great way to get recognition for your visual arts program. Another one that is done by the NAM Foundation, one of the sponsors here today, and there's cards out on one of the tables out there about this, is this Best Communities for Music Education program. So what this does is a pretty extensive survey that you fill out about your K-12 music program. And I tell people it's worth doing even if you don't get recognized, because it's a great audit of your program to see where you are, where you might be lacking. And then if you are named as one of these best communities for music education, there is so much positive public relations that come with it. NAM does some outreach from the national level to your local media, which helps when it's a national organization coming in and making the pitch to cover something. So NAM will come in and try to help you get that recognition, but then there are so many different ways that you can get the recognition on your own within your district. They have a whole toolkit on the website. So there's cards out there to get information, or you go to namfoundation.org to get further information. So that is a ton of information packed into like 45 minutes of just some ideas that I hope get you thinking about how you can advocate for your program, but not in that traditional way of advocacy that maybe we all think of, that's about policy and having to learn about ESSA and everything that's in the 1,000 pages of ESSA. It's more about telling the story of your students, of your program, of your classroom. So with that, if anyone has any other suggestions they'd like to make, any questions, I'm happy to field those. If not, I will remind you that there is a sign-in sheet for Act 48. There are, Ron, what else did Ron tell me to do? These evaluation forms, and then there's coffee in the hall. All right, thank you very much.